Hello everyone, welcome to the new video tutorial of bioentac. In the last session we have dealt about the xylem component, that xylem tissue system. In this session we will be dealing about phloem. So if you are new to this channel, subscribe to it and enable the bell icon to get daily notification. So without wasting time, let's get on with the video. Now before going on to the different components of phloem, first let's focus on some entrance points. The term phloem was related to the scientist or the person Nageli because it's an entrance question. Now next one is that in pteridophytes and gymnosperms, only sieve cells and parenchyma are present. In most cases, companion cells and fibers are absent. So in pteridophytes and gymnosperms, only sieve cells and parenchyma are present. That's an entrance point question. Now, in some gymnosperm, fibers may be present. So, in questions that may be an exceptional case, so you should note that gymnosperm fibers are also present. Not all cases, in some of the gymnosperm fibers are also present apart from sieve cells and parenchyma. Now, in the case of angiosperms, all the four components are present. In general cases, exceptions are always present, but in entrance point of view, you cannot study all the exceptional cases. So, we have generalized it, and in angiosperms, all the four components are present. So, that's all a brief introduction about phloem from entrance point of view. Now let's focus on the each component one by one. Coming on to the first component of phloem, that is sieve elements, or simply known as sieve tubes. So that forms the main conducting element of the phloem. So the properties, physical properties of sieve cells is that it is long, slender, and tapering ends. It is like a fiber form. It is long and slender and has tapering ends, just like a fiber. Now, another term which is related to sieve tube is sieve area. We might see this in the question paper and you might not understand what it is. So let me explain it. These are depressed wall areas with a cluster of perforations. So sometimes sieve tubes or sieve cells have multiple perforations, a cluster of perforations with a depression, and that area is known as sieve area. Now, in sieve cells, connecting strand is enclosed by a callous wall. So sometimes you might hear the question as in the sieve area, the connecting strands are enclosed by dash. So that the answer is callous. So the callous term related to the complex tissue is related to sieve tubes. So you have to note that point. And finally, sometimes you might hear this term nacre wall. And what nacre wall is that the wall of in some plants, the wall of sieve elements or sieve tubes is exceptionally thick. That wall is known as nacre wall. And in sometimes the sieve tubes have certain slime bodies, that is creating slime elements, so that's known as slime bodies. So slime bodies are seen in sieve tubes. That's also an important point because it seems like a normal point, but sometimes the question might be from that point. So question might be asked from basic level. So you have to note that also. So slime bodies are seen in sieve tubes or sieve cells. So that's all about sieve tube. Now let's go on to the second component. Coming on to the second component of the phloem, that is companion cells. It's always associated, not always, and taking the general case, generally it is mostly associated with the sieve cells. It is said that the sieve cells and the companion cells arises from the same mother cell. So by division, one of the cell becomes from a mother cell. By division, one of the cell becomes companion cell, another cell becomes sieve cell. So the point to be noted here is that the companion cells have a living protoplasm with nucleus, but sieve cells do not have a living nucleus. So it is said that the nucleus of companion cell controls both companion cell and the sieve cell. So the companion cells is mostly associated with sieve cells. So it has a living protoplasm, and as I have said, it is always mostly associated with sieve cells. Sometimes solitary or individual companion cells are seen in the phloem, in the primary phloem and herbaceous plants. So a question might be asked. So it is the solitary or individual companion cells can be seen in primary phloem or herbaceous plants. So that's all we have to focus about companion cells. The main point to be noted here is that it controls the sieve cell in most plants. So it has a living protoplasm, and individual companion cells can be seen in primary phloem and herbaceous plants. So that is the important point to be noted here. Now let's move on to the third component of the phloem. Phloem parenchyma. The third component of the phloem. The most important point is the living component apart from the companion cells. And it helps in connection of food materials, but the most of the main function of the phloem parenchyma is storage of food materials. And the important entrance point to be noted here is that it is absent in most of the monocots. So that is an important point. Now, as usual, we have learned in xylem also that the wood parenchyma have two types of system, that is a vertical and horizontal system. The vertical system is known as, in that case, it's wood parenchyma, and the horizontal system is ray parenchyma. Similarly, here also two systems are present. That is the vertical system, that the vertical component of the phloem is known as the phloem parenchyma, and the horizontal other component of the phloem made of parenchyma is known as ray parenchyma. That is the conduction and radial conduction of the wood materials. In that case also, in here also. So that is briefly what you have to focus on phloem parenchyma, and let's move on to the fourth part or the fourth component of the phloem. Final component, that is fibers. These fibers and parenchyma, that is nothing but the tissue system that we have learned in simple permanent tissue, that is this parenchyma and fibers. Fibers is a component of parenchyma. So that same component and functions come together to a similar function that becomes the complex tissue system, and in the case of phloem, which is known as fibers, or in most question paper you can see the term bast fibers. So the bast term is related to the phloem. So you might not hear at the phloem fibers, you might hear the question as bast fibers. So you should remember that the phloem fibers are also known as bast fibers, as in the case of wood parenchyma is related to xylem. So like that, the bast fibers or phloem fibers are similar one. And the important point is non-living tissue, and the main function is giving the strength to the plant body. So it does not help in conduction of water, but main function is giving strength to the body of the plant. And the wall of these fibers, in most cases lignified, as in the case of xylem we have seen it as lignified walls, but in the case of phloem the wall may be lignified or non-lignified. Lignified phloem fibers will be seen in cannabis, and the non-lignified fibers, phloem fibers are seen in linum. So this point, this non-lignified wall is in linum or flax. You should know that important, because sometimes this question might be asked apart from the portion of phloem fibers or bast fibers. So that's all for today's video. If you have any doubt or queries, please mail to bioentac@gmail.com. So wait till next video.